Okay, so this is a pot I threw yesterday, and I left it attached to the bat. Because I did that, I'm able to trim it right side up, which I really like to do because I get to see the shape as I trim, instead of having it turned upside down, where I'm always kind of leaning to the side trying to see what I think it's going to look like when it's finished. This way I can see it perfectly. So whenever I get the chance, I do it this way. Now I still will turn this over, but I'll do that after it pops off on its own, which will be in probably the next few hours, since I threw it yesterday afternoon. And it's a small piece. It's possible it'll even do it while I'm trimming, you never know. I kind of keep a hand next to it, so if it does pop off, I can just pick it up. So I chose this tool. Nice small one, maybe medium sized, I guess. The one that comes in your kit, if you're a beginner, and I assume you are if you're watching this, is this one. And this guy works great too, and it'll do the same job. I like to put a second hand on the hand holding the tool, unless I'm worried about it popping off, and then I'll keep a hand on the piece. So I start high. I try to get this all cleaned up and set. Then I work the top of the curve, and then I drop to the bottom of the curve. I move my tool really slow. Now the clay at the bottom, I like to use this tool. And I start just by pushing it straight in. Okay, now I kind of want to blend this in, so I'll roll over. I'll take a little bit more of this away. Okay. And that's really it for this one. I'm going to touch this up. The only thing left to do is to turn it over. And for this piece, to turn it over, I'm going to have to use a chuck. But I'm going to show you that once this guy pops free. So now it's time to take the round piece and trim the bottom. And the easiest way to do this is to use a chuck. So a chuck is really just a cylinder that's shaped a little bit like an hourglass. I like when they roll out slightly. Makes them easy to place pots in of different sizes. This one we're just going to set right in here. It'll just rest in here. And then the first thing I'll do is take a level and place it on top. And I just check it in a few directions. That's actually pretty good. And every time you move it, of course, you've got to check the other directions again and make a slight adjustment usually. But there we go. So now this is level. But now I need to get the pot in the middle. If I turn the wheel, you see how much closer it gets to me on the one section? So I'd want to move that away. Now, I don't move the pot, because if I do that, I'm going to make it unlevel. I move the chuck. And this is why I didn't attach the chuck before I started. Some people will attach the chuck directly to the wheel. They'll center it and attach it. I think it's better to actually wait and do it now. Move it to the middle now. Because really we're trimming this piece. We're not trimming the chuck. Chuck may not be perfectly round. The pot is definitely not going to be perfectly round. And you can just throw a couple of these chucks and, for your own use, and throw them through a bisque firing. Or like in this case, don't. I mean, I've used these multiple times already. I threw a couple the other day. I've used them multiple times. And they're holding up great. They'll last quite a while as long as I don't get them wet. Here we go. So that's it. I've got this centered now, and I've got it level. So now, if I was worried about the chuck moving, I would take a chunk of clay, and just like if I was attaching a pot, I would attach the chuck just by putting clay around the edge to keep it from sliding. Okay, so this is ready to go. Now, some people put chunks of clay around the pot itself. This one is in here good. I'm not worried about it jumping out of there, so I don't feel like I need to do that. Since the only thing left to do is the bottom edge and then the very bottom, I'm going to probably just stick to this smaller tool. We'll start with the rounded side. Now I'm going to switch to the straight side, the more squared off one. And I'm just going to dig in like this. I rotate in until I get it nice and straight. Right, and now we're going to blend from here down through here. And normally I would be working at 3 o'clock. I just want to give you the best look at this. So I'm going to work up here at 1. Now I want to show you one other tool that you can use for the sides. You can take your metal rib and slide it across too. It's a great trimming tool. And I'm just using this little bit, and look how I've got my finger over this edge. And that's where I'm putting the pressure on the clay. So it's almost like I'm running my finger across it, but the extension to my finger is this little strip of metal. And look how smooth that makes it. Here we go. So now the final bit is the very bottom. So I'm going to put my finger in here. I'm going to drive down with just a corner of this squared off end to make that outside line. Clean up this edge a little bit. And now I'm moving. Well, I got that obviously unlevel. So before I can finish it, I could just eyeball it back. But I think I'll take the time here just to go ahead and reset. I just created a little too much drag and popped it out of there. There we go. Back in business. Now, if I'd been able to keep my finger in the center, then it wouldn't have done that. But I moved it out because I'm trying to get the clay lowered in the center. So that's what got me into trouble there. You can tell that the pot does need to be moved back to the center, but I don't need to do that because I've actually already created the line. So I know where I need to trim. So it's okay that it's out. I'm just not going to push all the way against this edge. There we go. Okay. So the last thing to do would just be to make my mark. And this little guy is done. I would just come back and clean all of this up. I'll take a sponge and go over this, smooth it all out, make it perfect. Same with this edge here. I like to just soften this a tiny bit before I send it to the kiln. And the signature, once that dries, I rub across it and that takes all those little high spots right off. Okay.